Well, the fight against coronavirus continues globally, and leaders around the world refuse to fold. Right now, there are nearly 2 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 globally. In the U.S., there are more than 500,000 confirmed cases. Most of them are in the state of New York. It's not all bad news, though. Nearly 33,000 Americans have recovered from the virus. The impact it's having on the economy, though, is not getting any better. New numbers from the state unemployment office show more than 90,000 Arizonans applied for benefits over the past week. Since all this started, there has been a record 345,000 total jobless claims. Last week alone, the state paid out $27 million worth of benefits. Meanwhile, more help could be on the way for farmers who are losing money. New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is pushing a bill that would protect the farmers' food supply and give financial relief. Now, due to a lack of demand from restaurants and schools, a lot of food from the farms is just going to waste. Right now, that food can't go to places like food banks because there's no reliable way to get it there.